Hello, it's Stuart Crawford with my second podcast of 2023. The last time we looked at what had happened in the Russo-Ukraine war in 2022. This time, in this episode, I want to look ahead to what might take place this new year. Now, we're over 10 months into the war now, and there's seemingly no prospect of peace anytime soon. We have, however, been witnessing an operational pause while both sides in the conflict regroup, re-equip, and reorientate. The winter weather is not conducive to intense fighting at the moment, and it is hard on both men and machines. Early in this new year, though, we're likely to see a return to a modicum of manoeuvre warfare afforded by the frozen ground. This may be short-term only. Before too long, the ground will soften again as spring approaches and, depending on location, bring with it restrictions on off-road movement. Remember how the Russians were brought to a halt north of Kyiv early on in the invasion, when vehicles which strayed off the relatively few, by Western European standards, tarmac roads became bogged in the soft soil and therefore easy targets for the predatory Ukrainian anti-tank squads equipped with weapons from the West. The same scenario could be repeated. I think there will also be a continuing emphasis on urban warfare, or fighting in built-up areas, as we used to call it. Compared to the Second World War, for example, there are relatively few troops on the ground in Ukraine, too few to man a continuous front line. So we're likely to see a continuation of what I call the War of the Settlements, where towns and villages are fortified and fought over, and the intervening spaces between them are the domain of patrols and minor skirmishes. I also anticipate that there will be some major offensive moves as the year progresses. The big question is, which side will be out of the traps first? The way things stand at the moment, I suspect it will be the Ukrainians. Russia appears to be struggling to reform its decimated formations and incorporate its new conscripts and returning reservists to form competent professional units. So I would think Ukraine will be best placed to strike first, but only if the West continues to support it with weaponry and other supplies to enable it to sustain its efforts. Here we need to see the West, and particularly the USA, up the ante and provide what Ukraine's President Zelensky has been asking for over a considerable period now. Modern aircraft and air defense systems, NATO standard tanks and artillery, and long-range precision strike missiles like the US ATACMS, which has a range of roughly 300 kilometers. These could really change the balance. In terms of strategy, the most likely scenario is, I think, that Ukraine will seek to mount a major offensive striking south from Zaporizhzhia towards Melitopol and beyond to the shores of the Black Sea, thereby cutting one of Russia's supply routes to Kherson Oblast and Crimea. Success here would allow them to move westwards and roll up Russian forces on the left or eastern bank of the Dnipro River without having to mount a difficult and risky assault crossing of that waterway. That achieved, Crimea in many ways lies at their mercy, because Russian military bases there come within the range of precision strikes by HIMARS and GMLRS missile systems, and the Russian positions may well become untenable. If, in addition to this, the Ukrainians are once again able to interdict or destroy the now repaired Kerch Bridge, then the Russians are well and truly stuffed. As I have written oftentimes before, the strategic prize in this war is Crimea, for whomsoever controls Crimea, and most importantly the naval base at Sevastopol, also controls the Black Sea and the entrance to the Sea of Azov. Putin will not be prepared to give it up, as it would signify the total failure of his special military operation, so the Ukrainians will have to take it by force. That said, the Russians also have a say in what might happen in 2023, and we should not take them lightly or underestimate their capabilities, sullied military reputation notwithstanding. Rumours are already circulating that they may be planning a repeat of their assault in Kyiv as soon as they are ready, and Ukrainian planners may have to deal with that first, or at the same time as their own initiatives. Whatever transpires in the first few months of the new year, it looks like fighting will continue for some time yet. I wrote previously that I thought it would be done and dusted by the summer of 2023. Now I'm not so sure. We can only hope that wiser heads eventually will prevail and both sides will head to the negotiating table and peace be declared before too long. I am not, however, holding my breath.